All right. Well, hello everyone. And today I just needed an excuse to talk to somebody that I've been watching on BookTube for a long time, which is Mr. or should I call you Barrister now, since it's official? Mr. Jimmy Nuts of Chatting with Nuts. Let's get this right here.
I
And
think you're
also,
the first person to use the new channel name.
there you go. And also the let's see if I get this right, Bend the Knee, a
Mhm.
Song of Ice and Fire podcast, which you are a co-host of. Is there anything else I should be plugging here?
Pretty average golfer, um, good cat dad, and an over the hill retired professional wrestler. I think that covers everything.
There you go. And Jimmy, how long have you been doing BookTube at this point?
6 years, I believe it's going on 6 years in like a month or two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been too long.
So this is the question I want to open with, as far as because you've been doing this for a while. What do you think has been the best year of reading that you've had since you started doing BookTube?
Oh my goodness. It's weird because I started my channel whenever I had just not really read that much. I mean, I read when I was a kid, read when I was a teen, did a lot of nonfiction on the road when I was wrestling. I really liked listening to like memoirs and biographies and stuff like that. A lot of physics books, but uh, I feel like my tolerance for anything was just much lower, right? Or I'm sorry, higher. So I was having so much fun with everything I was reading because I was excited to be reading again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of documenting that journey along the way. So it's really hard to say unless if I put myself in that mindset again, where I had not read, 800 books or whatever. Uh, to me, I want to say it was probably the second year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second year is when I read Realm of the Elderlings, Dark Tower, and Malazan all in a year. And those changed me as a reader and somewhat as a person, like permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And I like those memories the most. Like I can remember reading the final couple hundred pages of Assassin's Fate, and like there's teardrop stains on my book, or I was sitting on a bench in a park around this time of the year, I think, and listening to one of the books in the final trilogy, and I just like remember like sobbing on a bench. like how pathetic is that? But also I just remember making videos around Malazan content and forming some really great friendships, obviously with like people like Philip Chase and Critical Dragon, and just I don't know. I really liked that year
Mm-hmm.
quite a bit. I also interviewed Steven Erickson that year, which was really great. He's a phenomenal human being. I also happen to think he's a phenomenal author as well. And I think that year is probably my best reading year. But what I will say is this: I am having so much fun with the variety of things that I read now. I still read predominantly, easily over 50% of the books I read are fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
but I do read a lot of other stuff now. And last year was good. I mean, it was really good. I've been saying that I think that the top spots are like S tier, but it's getting harder to find just like 1 through 10 being like complete bangers all the
Mm-hmm.
way down, just because I've read a lot of the stuff that I was hyped
Sure.
for that went with. There's only so much post-apocalyptic fiction out there, right? There's only so many epic fantasy series out there that I'm interested in. So we're thinning the herd, I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
So how would you say like this year of reading has been for you? Would you give it A tier, S tier?
Well, dude, that is a great question. I think that I have read 2 books that are probably all timers. There's probably more than that. I'm just forgetting, but there's 2 immediately off the rip top. Oh, 3. There's 3. And then there's one short story I just read last month that I think is one of the best pieces of short fiction I've ever read. That's The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. And then the Deluge, I always say it wrong, by Stephen Markley, James by Percival Everett, and Power of the Dog by Don Winslow.
Oh, it got up there, huh?
Oh, dude. I mean, that book is just so uncomfortable, but so good at the same time. And again, I know I'm forgetting some books. So again, that top part is like crazy good. But I think I've DNF more books this year than I've DNF. So I think it's probably around that A tier, B plus A tier, I would say.
You don't DNF much, do you?
Not often. I also am a habitual starter of books. Like I'll just like peruse my shelves and be like, I'm gonna read 20 pages of this book I was supposed to read 2 years ago. I forgot about, and I'll be like, that was really good. And I'll put it back on the shelf and just be like, okay, like I'll come back. So like that's not really DNFing, but I have had to DNF a couple patron picks. Um, I don't know if I've DNF'd personal pick. Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. I think I did. Did I DNF Mark Lawrence's book? I can't remember. No, I didn't. I finished it. I finished it. Um,
Hey, there's another one coming out next year, so get hyped
wait,
for that.
wait, what? Is he writing again?
Hey, he's got
Yay!
another one coming out, so
Don't we have enough?
I'm sure it's part of his big interconnected universe, you know.
Ooh,
Um,
fancy.
no, I only asked because it's like, man, I've DNF'd more books this year than I have any other year. The funny thing is, even more than I've DNF'd, there are books that I wish I had. Because it's like I got about halfway through and I was like, I know this is gonna be a 3-star. I know this is
Yeah,
just gonna be okay. And it's like, man, there are so many books that I have by authors that I know I love. And I
yeah.
know I'm going to love reading like more of their stuff. And I'm like, why did I spend the rest of my time on that 3-star when I know there's other ones on my shelf? And like, I get hit by a truck tomorrow, you know? And then
Dude,
what would happen? So
bro, I'm telling you, that's the mentality to have. Like tomorrow's not promised. You only have so much time on this earth to read.
yeah.
Read what you want to read. Now, I'm not saying it's not always like there are times where sticking it out's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even argue that some 3-star books are the most fun to talk about because if you're
Mm-hmm.
really conflicted about a book, you've been thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy is the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Apathy towards a book is just dead to rights.
Yeah.
There's almost never any coming back from it. And we've all been there. We've all had a book. Sometimes it's not even really the book's fault. Sometimes it's just when we reach for it. But I definitely think earlier on in booktube, especially like years 2 and 3, there were a lot of books when I reached the end of the year. I'm like, man, I should have DNF'd at least 10 of these bad boys. Like there was no reason to continue on. So last year I started DNFing more, and then this
Sure.
year I've continued that thing. And I hate DNF and patron picks. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's going to send me into a spiral, like a slump, I just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, you don't want your patrons surely don't want you to be miserable. I don't
Well,
know. Some of your patrons, I'm not. Which now I'm implicating myself in that because you know now a patron. But I do want to ask because you said apathy is like the enemy here. So one series that you tend to be you had some pretty apathetic opinions on that I wanted to talk to you about is Song of Ice and Fire. No. uh when did you first read that first book?
So it was right around when the show came out because I think I started the show once, didn't like it, or I had read it. I always forget which happened first because I stopped both.
Hmm.
And then I finished the book and then I went back to the show and liked it. And then obviously I like burned through the books, right? So for me, it is interesting because I didn't have a ton of confidence that the show would actually like continue on just because I'm like, who would, you know, who likes fantasy?
Hmm.
Like that was my kind of mindset. But it feels weird to me that like I have such a distinct barrier between the two. I'm not saying sometimes I don't get them mixed up. I'm sure I do, but
Mm-hmm.
I have like Bran in my head, and then there's Bran in the show. There's
Mm-hmm.
Sansa in the book. Like I've done a great job since the get go of separating those things. So to me, like I, I didn't let the show ruin things for me, I guess. But yeah, that was a wild time because I wasn't reading a ton back then.
Hmm.
But I started that book. I think I put it down, and to give you an idea, I think I did the rest of the books before I continued on with the show, if I remember correctly. But here's the crazy thing, Sam. I was reading a chapter a day.
Hmm.
Took forever.
I bet.
It took for there were days where I read more, but
Yeah.
I was like minimum, like you're gonna read a chapter a day. And I think it was the most excellent reading experience of my life.
Hmm.
And I do bend the knee. We do a chapter a week, and I love it.
Hmm.
There's so much to dive into. There's also a lot of things that George does with the order of chapters, and he's making connections, and even a little bit of like metaphor sometimes can apply to the next chapter, the next POV. It's very intentional.
Hmm.
And you see that more when you read slowly, I think.
Hmm. That's interesting. One thing that I've noticed, because I'm not like super into the Song of Ice and Fire fandom, but I
Mhm.
observed, mainly because it's one of these fandoms where, well, like it's super popular, and so you get these like, well, like for context, I guess, like I was talking to a Tim Powers fan that I had on my channel like a few months back.
All four of you.
Right. Well, that was his point. Is he's like, dude, he's like, my friend has this like blog, and he did this deep dive on the Anubis gates, and he pulled out things that like he's like, I think he's the first one ever like have figured it out. It's like, yeah, probably. Tim Powers is kind of like, obviously he was more popular back in the day, but he's kind of a niche author. But with George, because of the success of the show, and then also his books have sold very well, like,
Mhm.
you've got some of these fans who are like pulling out the tiniest like details and making whole theories around it. And one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of the people, whether it's I'm gonna embarrass myself, Alt Shift X
Yeah, yeah.
or
I'll shift
Quinn the
X.
GM,
Yeah.
some of these channels, they will have like a minor character that like an average reader wouldn't even remember was in the books. That they just like, that is the guy, that is like more than Ned Stark, more than Tyrion, like that. So I have to ask you, do you have like a small side character that is like, that's my boy right there?
Yeah, and we say side characters. I mean, we could pick out something like wild, like very unknown and obscure, but uh I just love Barristan Selmy, man.
Hmm.
Barristan Selmy, like wrestling with his legacy, standing up to job, like throwing the sword down, add it to the chair, like just I don't know. There's something about it. He rescued the Mad King from Duskendale, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't have. Like,
Hmm.
just like really weighing his life. And on top of being like one of the baddest swordsmen of all time. I think that's just, I love it. I also really like Donald Noy at the wall, who is
Hmm.
not in the show. I think Donald Noy is actually a really great character and has a pretty big impact on John's arc. I know Kyle, our good friend Kyle, loves Balin Swan, and I've really come around the Balin Swan as well. When
Hmm.
you really look at it, he's kind of the man. So there's ton. I like Ariahota. Everybody hates Ariahota. I like him.
I thought you were gonna pick like Walder Frey or something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, the phrase. Oh gosh, the phrase. Ooh. They're so skeevy.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody, all right, maybe this might be wrong, but I'm just gonna say it and we'll figure out if it's right or not. Everybody had somebody in school where they had so many brothers and sisters throughout the school, and they were the worst, right? Like, there goes another, I don't know, Phillips. Oh, there's the Phillips. Yep, part of the Phillips gang.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those kids, ugh, they always sucked. I don't know.
Well, you said like you love like Area Hota, as
Hmm.
a character. You love that arc. And this is one of the things from like listening to Bend the Knee and hearing you talk about like stuff in some of the live streams. Like, I don't think there's a single sub arc of A Song of Ice and Fire that I haven't heard you be like, bro, you think it's boring? Let me get you hyped for it, man. So I have to ask you, like, is there a subplot that when you get to in the books, you're like, can we get on to the good stuff, please? Or is it just like all of it's cinema? Like,
Well, it's certainly all cinema. I will say, let me consider this. Man, anything in King's Landing's good. Like, I don't care if it's Moon Boy and Cersei getting it on, rumors, like all that stuff's so good, which they did for sure. Uh I guess if I had to pick one, and this might be a hot take, but keep in mind, I would rather read this than literally anything else.
hmm,
Arya traveling with the Brotherhood without banners, like the eighth or ninth time. Okay. Okay, I got it. I love Beric Dondarrion. I love the Brotherhood
yeah.
without banners, and I actually love how much I think it's going to end up playing. Like the Brotherhood without banners is not done yet. At least some of
Hmm,
the people in there,
hmm,
Lem and everything else. And I love the Hound. I love Arya,
hmm.
but I don't know. I did this time. So we are about to finish a Storm of Swords on Bend the Knee, and when I say that, I think we still have 9 more episodes, which is 9 weeks. So it's going to be a while. But this time around, they didn't hit as much. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that when we were getting to these Arya chapters, they're rather short. And I felt like I had the least amount to say about them outside of just the fact that you're like, man, it sucks. This girl's like 8 years old. This is horrible. Right. So if I had to pick one, it's that, but there's really none. I mean, there's really nothing in there that I don't like reading. I think I am slightly not as enthused reading book 1 again.
Really?
Like I will, but like I don't know. When you read the rest of the series, there is so much more in the other books, and I think Game of Thrones is fabulous. Obviously,
Yeah.
I own 8 copies of it. I think 6 or 7, 8 copies of it. So clearly, I love the book. But when you actually look at it, it's a much tighter book than a lot of the other ones. And I know some people really dislike Feast and Dance for how off the rails George gets without his editor. But I like it. So I don't care. I like all of it. So I think those are probably, my hot take. I guess like maybe the entire first book, because I'm just kind of like, man, like let's get to the catalyst. Let's get to the other stuff. Because once Dany like starts to really come of age, like I think that she has some phenomenal moments. Let's be honest, like the Khal Drogo stuff's not super fun to read.
Right. Yeah.
George is not perfect, clearly. And those scenes kind of suck. So
I think that's interesting. I think because I want to read them again sometime. It'll be interesting to see how my thoughts on book 1 evolve, because I've said this before. I think I said it on my chat with Philip. I know I've said at least one other place on like the online space in terms of books. But growing up, I grew up in a pretty evangelical household, where it's like Harry Potter, not in this house, type of thing. And so, but like if my parents weren't aware of something, like they didn't care. I'm like, George Martin book, they're like, we don't know what it is, we don't care. And so I read a Game of Thrones before I read Tolkien. That first Game of Thrones book, I was like 14 or 15, and like read that first book in I think a day, maybe day and a half, but just flew through it. Here's the tragic part. I stopped reading at around A Storm of Swords because I lost track of it. There were new characters, new plot threads, and at the time I was just like, I don't know what this okay. And so I kind of lost the plot and stopped. My estimation from what I remember is about 5 chapters before the Red Wedding in Storm of Swords.
And dude, it's like the book's absurd. Red Wedding right into Joffrey's wedding. Like literally right into. It's just pure heat from that point on. That's wild.
So I wonder how, because like I reread, then I wanted to actually read Storm of Swords, Feast for Crows, and Dance with Dragons. So you don't just pick up there. So I reread them all, and that was very beginning of last year, so almost 2 years ago at this point. And actually, and so that first book is still my favorite. I'm not saying it's the best, but just from that,
I get it.
And I think my second favorite. And sorry, I'm like off my questions now. I'm just riffing, but I think my second favorite is probably A Feast for Crows.
Very, very good take. That's a great.
And here's why I like. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know people are going to come after me for this, or some people will. I adore the character of Cersei Lannister.
Oh yeah,
she is so funny to me. Like, dude, there's very little that I love quite as much in a book as like a pompous, arrogant character and being inside of their head and just seeing how unaware they are of all of their and maybe that comes from like some personal thing of like I'm worried that that's me, and so it's easy for me to like.
You're good.
It's easy for me to laugh at that, but like Cersei is such a funny. I mean, everybody talks about like, oh, they shrunk the dresses down and stuff like that, just being like. But I think that's part of the reason why I like Feast for Crows so much, and the contrast of seeing what everybody else thinks of Cersei and then getting inside of her own head, and you're like, wait, like George Martin is doing unreliable narrator, quote unquote, in a third person, limited perspective novel series.
Yeah, dude. I think Cersei's without a doubt top 3 character. Ironically, I mean, I would have to really think about this, but off the top of my dome, I just think Tyrion, Jaime, Cersei. Like they're just I never ever get upset when I see one of their chapters. I'm just like, oh god, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
Man, Cersei is a hot mess, and it's so fun. It's so fun, and also, it's kind of crazy. It's really tragic. I mean, she's losing children. She has been a victim of this patriarchal society. Uh, Never really given a chance. She also happens to be in love with her brother. Is she actually in love with him? I'm not sure. There's a lot going on with Cersei, but yeah, Feast for Crows is the book I always say is it's the best on reread. I think it's the one that gives the most benefit for rereading.
I think that was the scene where it clicked, and everybody talks about like maybe George should tone down certain scenes. I guess I'll keep it PG. There's a scene with Cersei and is it her chambermaid in Feast for Crows, and that was the scene where it clicked, where I was like, oh, Cersei was like super abused by Robert Baratheon, and so now she thinks the way to see yourself as powerful, the way to act as a king, is to abuse those around. And that's like when it clicked for me as a character of like, oh my gosh. And so there's something horrific and a little funny, but also tragic about that, all at the same time.
Yeah, and the tragedy of a lot of Song of Ice and Fire is that almost everyone is a victim of this system that's in place, this monarchy. But instead of changing it, they just want it for themselves. And that's pretty realistic, unfortunately. Like Cersei never once goes, this has really been bad to me. Instead, she's like, well, I should have a turn. And if I do, oh, Tyrion, I want your head.
Yeah.
What a trap. When like vengeance takes precedence over change, I think you're probably in a pretty bad spot. Yeah.
I've had a few. Well, this is part of why I wanted to talk to you, Jimmy, because I've had a few guests recently who are not hot on Song of Ice and Fire, and that's fine. They can like whatever they want. Right. But since I love it, I was like, I got to talk to somebody who does. So, Jimmy, what do you think when people call, like, what is your opinion of people who call Song of Ice and Fire either grimdark or nihilistic?
So I don't really care about the grimdark label very much. Like, it just doesn't, like, what's it really mean at the end of the day? I'm glad it exists for people who want to find books kind of similar to other books, but we draw lines in it would be very difficult to define it. I think I attempted once on a live stream with Bookborn back in the day, like way back in the day, and I would probably be annoyed at myself if I listened to it again. Nihilistic. George is not writing a nihilistic work. That's obvious to me. Just the fact that I think a lot of people go into this camp of like Tolkien versus George R.R. Martin, which is pretty silly. George R.R. Martin is not trying to combat Tolkien. He has certain disagreements maybe with like how to do fantasy, but he's in conversation with him, and that's good. I mean, that's how you get Elric of Melniboné. These are good things. So to me, I just always feel like it gets put in this camp of like Tolkien has this hopeful and then you have George R. R. Martin who's writing this nihilistic, I'll show you how bad everything is. I think George is showing some pretty horrific things happening, and I do think that he does make a point to show how bad things can get, especially when you're complacent. But to say it's not heroic fantasy is just nonsense. I mean, people forget that Sam the Slayer exists. Davos exists. Brienne exists. The heroes in this story just happen to be the unlikely ones. They're of an unlikely nature. A lot of people would have rather seen Ned Stark save the day. But you know what you're getting? You're getting a boy in a wheelchair instead. And I think that that's pretty cool. So I don't believe the fact that I'm not saying there's not nihilistic elements to it, but to declare the entire thing nihilism, I think is pretty reductive and silly. And not to mention that in George's other works, if people would read those, he even has one, I believe it's Dying of the Light. I think it's Dying of the Light. I'd have to remember. I'm trying to remember which book it is. Anyways, there's this alien town, alien city on this planet, and they have had a catastrophe because the wind causes nihilism. And you have a moment where the protagonist like stands up to the wind and is almost overtaken by nihilism, but stands up to it and has this big monologue about not being nihilistic.
Hmm.
And it's very A Song of Ice and Fire Code, where it's like an acknowledgement of it, but it's not an endorsement of it.
Hmm.
So I just think it's pretty evident throughout all of his works that the end message is never that nothing matters. Haha, you got, the rug pulled out from you.
Uh-huh.
I just don't think that that's the case. Now, some people will say, well, if he can't write his ending, then he'll never get to that point. But I think we have plenty of moments of heroic, uh, maybe not optimism, but heroic fantasy to go off of. I mean, Samwell Tarly's awesome. And ironically, Sam, uh, those people, when I talk to them about this series, they always end up saying, oh, I hate Sam chapters.
Right, right,
I'm
yeah.
like, bro, the dude fell in the snow and wanted to die. And he got willed by his brothers of the Night's Watch to keep walking, and he did it.
Hmm.
Now they might have called him Mr. Piggy while they did it. That was pretty rude of them, but he got up and kept moving.
Yeah.
And so much of A Song of Ice and Fire is like, devastation, but the characters always move on, or at
Hmm.
least attempt to. I mean, I think Tyrion's a pretty interesting example that he becomes essentially a villain
Hmm.
after A Storm of Swords. He spends an entire trial telling the truth and tells a lie at the end of the book. And once he embraces, the untruth, he becomes a far worse person almost overnight,
Hmm.
which I think George is trying to say something
Hmm.
there. And I don't know. So that's my opinion. I think that people who generally call it like full blown nihilistic just have simply not like dove in enough, or maybe rejecting some of the parts that I would find to be hopeful. But it's definitely heroic fantasy in my mind.
I had to tell you, Jimmy, I'm not much of a TV watcher anyway. So I didn't see the show when it came out, and I was
Mm.
kind of always on the fence. I'm like, oh, maybe I'd check it out or watch parts or whatever. And when I read, I said when I reread Storm of Swords, read it in its entirety, and I guess I'll say, like, I'm not gonna try and spoil things here, but I'm also not gonna like dance around it. So like,
Yeah, my bad.
well, no, I'm just I'm about to go into something big here. So for
Okay.
people who haven't read it, like if you're not planning on reading it soon, like this is going to be generic enough that you won't care. But there's a sequence. We'll just say the last scene between Tyrion's last scene in Storm, where he's traveling through the passageways and he has some significant conversations with some family members, and
Mm.
that is maybe my favorite sequence in the 5 books. But there's a moment where he specifically is confronting one of his family members about Taisha. And I watched the way that was adapted in the show. I tell you, Jimmy, I almost threw my phone across the room.
That's where the show went off the rails, my friend.
The fact that they edited that, and I'm like, no, it actually does not work. Like the scene does not make sense why Tyrion does what he does when you change who the person is about. But
Yep.
when you put it with Taisha, and it's like, no, this core thing is not just like, oh, Tyrion got screwed over. It's like, no, you got screwed over like 16 different ways by
Yep.
everybody around you. And like, this is what breaks him. Like, no, he wouldn't break over just another person in his life, but it's like, this is the linchpin. I was like,
Yep.
oh yeah, no, I don't. I'll watch some clips of some of the good bits, but and like for people who like the show, that's fine. But just that was so like, oh, I gotta see how this scene is played, and I was not happy.
And Tyrion was never very good after that in the show, unfortunately. I mean, there's moments, of course. That's a massive moment in the show where it kind of showed that D&D were missing the point. And to be fair to them, they adapted a lot of really great stuff. And before someone comments and says it's George's fault, this is an obvious departure from the sort. So don't like people say, oh, they only sucked because they didn't have anything to adapt. That's actually not true. They went away from the books far earlier than
Right,
this.
right.
This is a great example of that. They did it, in my opinion, they did a bad job of adapting that scene. Maybe not so much the commode part. That one was fantastic, but that specific moment for Tyrion's arc is ruined in the show, and certainly one of the bigger red flags, and pretty early on, or one of the earlier ones in the show. Dude, that scene in the book like never gets old. It never will to me, and just that alone, there's like 10 questions that we could ask. Was Tywin with Shay the entire time? Did it happen because she was a witness? Did he plant her into the camp, knowing Tyrion's weakness? Did Varys introduce them? Like there are so many things going on that it's just an example of like, yes, this moment is shocking. This moment has a wow factor, whatever, but there's also so much interpretation around it. And that's the difference between just having like, kind of shock and awe moments, which I think people think that's all Song of Ice and Fire is, which is really silly. And you see it in like the A Song of Ice and Fire like stuff. A lot of it doesn't have that depth that something like that scene has. That we have to start almost running an autopsy on the scene and be thinking like, well, how long was that going on? Did she ever love Tyrion? Question. Like, and that's why I think you can reread the book so many times and talk about it forever.
So I've got to ask you also. I've got to also ask you, Jimmy. What? So everybody. We talked about like everybody has like their theories about what's going on, and you said even from like small scenes you can pull out things. So what is like the most popular theory out there that you also think is just like the dumbest, needs to die, people need to stop repeating?
Oh, there's so many.
Are you like pro or anti Clegane Bowl?
So I will say this is a fairly interesting theory. I love the idea of Cersei having a champion against the Faith, and the Faith choosing the Gravedigger, who happens to be the Hound, and then he ends up fighting his brother. I actually think it would be pretty fitting. I also think it's pretty awesome if the Hound just falls into irrelevancy, like and kind of fades to black. I actually think that's beautiful. So I'm not opposed to Clegane Bowl. I think that could be really cool. I just don't know what the Hound does after that.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Hound dies. Like I don't, maybe he dies, but I don't see him just dying to Robert Strong. I don't see that, his brother. So I'm fine with it in theory. I guess it is a theory. So in theory, here's the thing. There's a lot of really popular theories out there that are nonsense, and I think people acknowledge their nonsense. Like Tyrion being a time traveling fetus. Like that's so stupid. It's funny though. Like I've spent hours looking it up. Like I've done it. One that we need to let go, and I'll tell you why we need to let it go, because there's more there than just this, is the Ned plus Ashara Dane equals Jon Snow. R plus L equals J is fact. George asked D&D at a dinner who they thought, was a mother. They answered right. Obviously, they did in the show what they thought it was, and that is true. It's 99.9% confirmed. Ned and Ashara Dane might not be Jon Snow's parents, but Ashara Dane is fascinating. Ned's relationship to her and going to Starfall, all that stuff's really weird, and it does not add up. Then they named a kid after Ned, who supposedly killed their family. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't pass the sniff test. Is that the saying? Okay. So if we would focus less on Ned plus Ashara Dane equals Jon, I think that we could get further. So let's do that. Because Ashara Dane's one of the cooler characters, I think, and it has a lot of mystery around her. Whether she's the Septa or not, who knows? But that's probably the most popular one I see. That's not to say that it's not interesting. It is interesting, and I've entertained it. I'll entertain any theory. The chance of me believing said theory, very low. Very, very low. My most crackpot theory, which I actually didn't think was outlandish, but apparently it is that I think Cold Hands is Dunk the Tall.
Oh, okay. I just heard this like 2 days ago.
Yeah. I think, and to be clear, when I say I think, it just means that I think it's possible. It might not be the most likely. I think the most likely thing is that we'll never know. I don't think that question needs answered with only 2 books left. And if they ever even come out, I just don't think it's really worth the page time to explain it unless it has a bigger plot point tied to it. We know it's not Benjen Stark. George told his editor that, and there was a picture of it. So it's not Benjen Stark. which I kind of like. The world would feel smaller if it was Benjamin Stark to me. But my whole thing about Dunk the Tall is that supposedly the hands are like frostbitten and black.
Hmm.
We know that Dunk supposedly dies at Summerhall, and there's fire, and I think burned hands probably look pretty similar to frostbitten hands. So is there a
Interesting.
chance that we think his hands are frostbitten, but they actually have been burned and he survived Summerhall, went to the wall? And you might say, why would he go to the wall? Well, Blood Raven and him.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it's like, you see what I mean? And I'm not, and I know I'm doing a lot of like correlations, whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's for fun. But I haven't heard a better theory for cold
Right.
hands.
Right.
So that's probably the wildest one that I'm a proponent of. I will support that one.
Okay. Is Benjen Stark? Do you think he's the Lord Mormont's Raven?
Oh, that I forgot about this. No, no,
No.
no, no. But dude,
This is one of the first theories that when I heard it, I was like, when it was explained, I was like, I guess I'm sold. It never crossed my mind once, but like,
if it were the case, I'd actually be fine with it. I'd be fine with it. Have you ever
because there's
heard
something screwy going on with that bird? Like,
the
not a
bird? The
normal
bird
bird.
is screwy. You're 100% right. And see, you caught me in a good mood because now I'm like, maybe it is true. And this is why this is a lot of fun. And it doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't hurt the story. So I kind of love these. Have you ever heard the theory that Ned Stark warged into the bird that Arya kills?
I have heard this.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would change.
It's so dumb. It's just tragic, but it's so funny. Like that someone thought of that. Dude, I heard this a couple weeks ago. We talked about it on Bend the Knee. I never thought about this. What if Benjen Stark is on Skagos with Rickon?
What?
Skagos? Go look at a map. Skagos is offshore to the north part of the wall, the haunted forest, I think. You have to look. But they're not too far. It's not that far.
Have there, okay, like, forgive me, it's been almost 2 years. Are there even any main characters over in Skagos?
I believe people think Rickon is there and that Davos is going to get Rickon. So there's a chance that Davos comes back with Rickon and Benjen Stark.
Is that the place with the unicorns?
Unicorn,
supposedly?
yeah. I think, dude, I hope we see Skagos. I would love a chapter in Skagos. Like if he just rips open a Davos chapter and he's riding a unicorn, I'm so in. It would be so fun. Now, do I really think Benjen Stark's on Skagos Island? Probably not. But it's fun. It's fun to think about. And clearly Benjen, something happened to him.
Yeah. Like it's what opens, like this is the thing that opens the book, like the series. Like you wouldn't just leave this like, oh well, big shrug. Who knows? Like,
and who's to say? And this is another question we've posed on Ben and a bunch of times. Does Benjen know about Jon's parentage? He could. Maybe he's the one to tell him.
Right. It would make sense that like he's like the one guy that Ned trusts with what happened. Like. Interesting.
There's only one other person who knows, and his name's Howland Reed.
Howland Reed knows?
Howland Reed was at the Tower of Joy.
Oh, that's right.
Where is Howland Reed, Sam?
Where is he at?
Where is he? He's got to show up.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, am I forgetting? Was he somewhere? And I just don't remember.
It's just like, they're like, oh, yeah, he's the frog man. He's just running around. It's like, well, he needs to make a debut at some point. Like, we see his kids, Jojen and Mira.
That's right, yeah.
And they're weird as hell, right? But Howland Reed is a key to the series, and he is alive. Now, there is a theory that he is the Sparrow.
Okay.
And he's using that to get revenge on Cersei. I don't think he is, to be clear.
Sure.
But if you want fun, go look up that theory. There's a huge write-up on it on, I think, Reddit. I think it's on Reddit. It's really, really good to think about. I don't think he is. But Howland Reed 100% will be on the page, I think, in A Song of Ice and Fire. And he does know what happened at the Tower of Joy. Which, by the way, we don't know what happened at the Tower of Joy. Do you think Ned Stark and Howland Reed beat Arthur Dayne? Oh.
Well, you know, Ned Stark is also Elrond, so
That
Elrond
is so
could have beat
true.
Arthur Dayne.
That is true.
I would say I don't need to go down the Rings of Power rabbit hole, a show I'm not overly fond of. I love that guy as Elrond though. I'm like perfect casting.
There was some good
Great.
casting.
Yeah.
Show just looks. I know this sounds weird. It looks cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I turned it on and I have tried, Sam. I have tried to watch episode or season 1 twice. I even jumped to season 2 and started it 3 times, and I just can't do it. It looks so bad.
Yeah.
They should have just not made the show. I don't even think about it. Like I think about the Hobbit movies. Like I think about the Hobbit movies. There's some bad there. There's a lot of bad there. There's some good.
I like them.
I do.
I have a lot of fun.
They're a great time. And I think about them as like part of Lord of the Rings. I do not think of Rings of Power at all.
Yeah.
And I never will.
Not the next Game of Thrones then, huh?
No, there is no next Game of Thrones. Unfortunately, it just won't happen.
I have to ask you this, because you've repeated this on some of like your Song of Ice and Fire things, because it's a thing Georgia said, and I don't get it at all. Okay, how is Melisandre the most misunderstood character in the series?
I think a lot of people think that she's just full of it, and I think that she really believes what she's saying. Also, her past is kind of interesting.
Okay.
Mentions of a shy. So I have a feeling that her backstory is probably pretty tragic, but I just think Melisandre is like really dedicated. Like I think she's a true believer, and whether or not that's nonsense or silly, it's still like she's doing what she think is right, which I think most people are doing in life, no matter what.
Right.
You know, they could be the most abhorrent person we've ever met. They probably in their head think they're doing the right thing and standing up for the things that they believe in. That doesn't always excuse terrible actions, like, you know, maybe potentially in the future killing Stannis's daughter. Probably would not be very cash money of her, but that's what I think, Sam. But I've also wondered, like, what
I've always just read her as basically a villain. Like, I'm like, and she's misunderstood. Like, what? Okay, what am I missing here?
She's not like other girls, Sam. That's what it's all about. I mean, I do think that in Dance, I think it's in Dance. Yeah, Dance. She gets more interesting, especially with John around. But I think a lot of that's going to take place in Winds of Winter. You know, if it ever even comes out. But I think that George has pretty major plans. I don't think it's going to be to you know, light some flames and then walk out and die in the snow. I don't think that's what it's going to end up being. So,
do you have, especially since like people look at, you know, how much most people don't like how the show ended. If you could just pick like one character that you get to know definitively the ending to of the series, which I know they're all interconnected, but like,
dang, I mean, no, that's actually a great question. I've never been asked that, and that's a pretty hard question to answer because, like, there's part of me wants to know if I'm right about things in my predictions, so that makes me say Danny. I'm also very interested in Jamie.
Okay.
Or as Roy Detroit sees, Jamie. But also, and this is going to be a weird one, I really am curious what happens with Sansa.
Okay.
I think Sansa's arc is so much better in the books. The show is terrible with Sansa, and the Ramsay stuff just sucks. But I think Sansa, I really don't know where it goes. And I'm not saying maybe she will be a Queen of the North. That wasn't one of the points George gave them, so we think. But I'm kind of curious that I'm a pretty big Sansa person. A lot of people think that she's one of the worst in the books, but I think all the stuff happening at the Vale is, I mean, it's kind of on the nose. It's Vale. Everyone's underneath a fake name, like a Vale, right? Like but I like that. I kind of like it being on the nose. So, Danny, I would just like to see her ultimate end, and because I don't think she lives through the end of the series. I actually think that most likely Dany's ending will be of someone who is heroic in her final moments and will never ever get the due diligence of someone reporting it correctly. I think she'll be lost to history and probably propaganda against Targaryens at some point. But the ending for her in the show, I just don't see it going that way. I'm open to the idea of Mad Queen. I'm actually very open to that. I just don't think that's what's happening here. And we know that D&D came up with her and John's ending in season 4. Like, that was them. They made that.
So, as somebody who hasn't watched the show, I know by reputation, people say this came out of nowhere in the last 3 episodes. So, and maybe that's not true, but I'm like, okay, why isn't this being signposted for another 4 seasons then?
Well, so here's the thing. Dany, I'm not defending the show, to be clear. And everything was too rushed. There was some stuff that could have been really cool, even the way it ended. Not all of it, but there's ending points that would have been really nice if they would have been fleshed out, and they weren't. Simple as that. But I don't know. Do you remember Dany murdering people when they were not doing what she wanted them to do? Because I do. Now, were they slavers and horrible people? And did I cheer when they died? Yeah, I did. But maybe I won't always cheer for who she wants to kill. You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think it's completely out of the question. It needed a lot more. It needed a lot more time in the oven. Simple as that. Some of the imagery was crazy though. Like, you got to say that final season was shot so beautifully, or horrific, I guess, in some people would say. But like, one thing you can't take away is the presentation. It was banging. It was great.
So when you look at like the later books, and you kind of get these like subplots off on the corners of Westeros between Dorne, Meereen, and the Iron Islands, which is your favorite like set of subplots that you follow there?
Dorne. It's Dorne. Yeah, okay. Dorne's just, I mean, Oberyn Martell making the entrance that he does in A Storm of Swords kind of, I think, inspires you to think about what Dorne's role was when they were more involved in King's Landing. And then also, like, who are these people? Because Oberyn Martell is on the page very little, but is captivating in every moment that he's on the page, whether it be conversations with Tyrion or, repeating claims of crimes against someone that he is, murdering, essentially.
Yeah.
So it just makes you go, oh, I want more. And then you get down there and you got this old decrepit dude that everyone thinks weak, but he's scheming, and his descendants can't stop screwing everything up. And then Quentin, like, there's just so many things.
Who is alive still?
You think?
No,
I that's one. I'm like, guys, it's over. Like, that was a contained story. It was Prince Charming goes and gets eaten alive by a dragon.
Prince Barbecue.
Yes, and now someone's gonna go, well, see, that's nihilistic. I would say that is funny. I would say that George playing with that is interesting, at least.
But it's also not in isolation, right?
Thank you.
That's like, context is a huge thing here. I mean, I could say like, hey, did you know that there's this old fantasy book called The Hobbit in which every main character is essentially a morally gray character? And people are like, what a dark, and it's like, no, like, obviously everybody knows The Hobbit's not a dark book, but like, think about it, like, for as much as people say Tolkien writes black and white characters, you've got like a grumpy, manipulative wizard. You've got a thief who's trying to be an honest thief. You've got like this king who wants to reclaim his kingdom but goes back on his word all of the time. Like, Hobbit's got some really like even more complex moral questions in some ways than people give it credit for. So.
Which is kind of cool because it's really a kid's story. You can read a chapter a night as a bedtime story if you wanted to. Like, they have nights endings to each chapter, but there's a little more going on there, which is the case in a lot of like children's fiction, actually.
Like Narnia, which you'll be reading next year. right?
How do I leave this call?
I will ask you though. Let me see here. I've got a couple of other George
Do you know what CS
related
stands for?
questions.
And C.S. Lewis, do you know what it stands for?
Well, I know the real answer. I'm thinking you're going to make a joke though.
Crappy stories.
Crappy stories. How dare you, sir? This man is why we have the Lord of the Rings today.
Oh, and then in turn is why we have Rings of Power. So think about that.
That hey, everybody wants to be second place. So I will. Okay, so I've got a few other random like George things to ask you about. But before we get there, I do have what I called Germ rapid fire questions for you.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so some of these are like not just Song of Ice and Fire, but like how much of a George Martin fan are you? So I'm not asking about how many of these have you read, but how many wild card volumes do you own?
One.
Just one.
The first one.
Okay.
I've heard it's really good. I've heard it's awesome, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, they said eventually went off the rails, but like the first few are supposed to be really great. And I do plan on reading. They're really long.
Yeah.
At least that one is.
I have the first one too, and I'm like, would I actually enjoy this more than other things? I'm not
Buddy
sure.
reading in
But
2026. We'll do it.
hey, we can make it happen. And
We'll
I've got a deal on the audiobook, so I'll snatch that up while I can. Okay, now the next question: who is more evil, Joffrey in A Song of Ice and Fire, or Simon Cress from Sand Kings?
Oh, it has to be Joffrey.
Yeah, I figured. I still wanted to. So who would be an equivalent to Simon Cress?
Man, maybe I almost like default said Roose Bolton, but meh. Maybe one of the Kettlebacks. The kettle is it? Which one is it? I'm trying to remember his name. Who's the main Kettleblack? I'm forgetting. Osmond? Is it Osmond? Whatever.
There's no way I would know.
One of the Kettleblacks. I would say maybe that. If someone else has an answer down below, like I would actually, this is a great question. I would like to see what people think.
Now, so once again, on the topic of how much of a Germ fan are you? A George R.R. Martin adaptation came out earlier this year. So the question is, do you remember what it was, and did you watch it?
No, I did not watch it. But I almost want to say it was Night of Cooters, but I think that was a book written by his friend that he had a hand in adapting. So it's not Night of Cooters, right?
Well, not the one I'm thinking of. I don't know. There might be more.
But well, I think that was last year. Yeah. Oh, I know it because he talks about it on his blog, and I read his blog has been my homepage on my browser since 2012.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. I read it. I check it every day.
It's like something significant happened in 2012, and we've been waiting for news ever since.
Oh God. You're gonna say it, and I'm gonna be like, I knew it, because it's like three words. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
4.
What is it?
It's In the Lost Lands.
Yeah.
With Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista. You said you didn't see it, and that's because apparently nobody saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's do you ever see like the Resident Evil movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson. He's kind of he's by reputation tends to be a pretty schlocky director, and he's the one who headlined it. So I've got it saved on my Hulu to watch list. I'm like, sure, why not? Like
the visuals look, I'm just watching the trailer on IMDb. The visuals look incredible, and I like Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch it, actually. It has a 4.7, which is not good, but also I like bad stuff. So
I was gonna say, Jimmy, I occasionally love like a well-known mediocre movie. Like the John Carter movie from like 2015. Love it. It's so mid. I love it.
I'll give you mine. The movie I like that is considered actually to be, I think, the worst blockbuster ever made. Do you know what it is?
No.
Battlefield Earth.
No kidding.
Dude,
Okay.
I watched that when I was a kid and thought it was the sickest thing of all time. We rented the VHS from Giant Eagle, which is a grocery store. They had like a little VHS rental place, and we got it. And I remember watching with my dad. I watched it like 3 times. I was like, this is the sickest stuff of all time.
Have you ever seen the book?
Yeah, and
It's like
you
a
know, it's so
tome.
big. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
I would like to read it because it'd probably be really funny. But one, I don't want to give Ron L. Hubbard any money.
Yeah.
I'd have to buy it used, which wouldn't be hard. There's a bazillion of them in every used bookstore. It's just too long, though.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
long.
I guess if L. Ron Hubbard passed, does that mean like Tom Cruise gets the money now? I'm not sure how that works, but
Somebody I wouldn't like is getting that money for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question is, would you rather have, if you were to get another book from George, would you rather have Winds of Winter or Avalon?
Avalon. Is this the sequel to Windhaven?
Isn't Avalon the book he was working on when he got the idea for the dire pups in the snow? This is my recollection. I didn't do my
I
research
mean,
on
no,
this.
but this is it. This is actually a little bit of trivia that I didn't know.
Let me see here.
Unfinished magnum opus. No, you got it. You nailed it.
I've always wondered what that would be, and I doubt he'll ever come back to it. But I'm like, because he always, in the interview that I heard him talk about it, it sounded like this like big project idea, and then he's like, oh, and then I did this other thing, and it's like, man, but what would that have been?
Yeah, it's a Thousands Worlds novel.
Whoop.
Oh no, did I blip? Am I back?
Just for a second.
Okay, sorry. So I'm glad you brought this up because I did not know this at all, and now I'm going to go so far down this rabbit hole. So without having any context, I had to say Winds of Winter. I mean, come on, like I want Winds of Winter more than A Dream for Spring. How about that?
Okay, well we've got a few before we get there. Do you want all the Duncan Egg novellas or Winds of Winter?
All of the Duncan Egg novellas?
Yeah.
Oh my god. All the Duncan Egg novellas.
Oh, no kidding. I mean that one might be a spicy take there. Now,
dude, here's the thing. Like, I've read a bunch of George's other works. He does endings really well. I would love to see him write Summerhall. I think it would be so tragic.
Everyone says he can't do endings. I was reading. I meant to bring this up earlier, but I'll drop it now. I just in October read Fever Dream, and it was really bizarre because I got to the last 5 pages and it just stopped. It was blank. There was no ending. It was like I was like, oh, this is what everybody means. He can't write an ending. His keyboard broke right before he got to
good. it. I think he actually closes out stories really well, which isn't surprising because he closes out chapters really well.
Right.
It's one of the things that he starts chapters well and ends chapters very well. Very like TV-esque in some ways. But yeah, the end of Fever Dream is really good in my opinion. So and Duncan Egg, there's just a lot there to chew on. One, they're very readable. I think George is at his best in shorter fiction. I think that's true for most authors. So I would love to see Duncan Egg. Like, give me 7 more of those. That would be fantastic. And Summerhall is so iconic. We get a lot of answers probably from that. Yeah, I will stand by that. I think I would love to see the rest of Duncan Egg before Winds of Winter.
So would you rather have the rest of would you rather have Winds of Winter or Doors of Stone and the rest of the Gentleman Bastards books?
Winds of Winter.
Okay, I figured that one would be easy. This one, I actually don't know if this is an easy one or not. Would you like Winds of Winter or the No God duology?
I knew it was coming. I will say Winds of Winter because I actually think that the Unholy Consult is a good ending. Well, hold on. Let me tie that back. Let me revamp that. I don't know if everything about's a good ending, but I think it's a good point to end on in that series specifically. I think Baker was actually going to go somewhere a little bit more hopeful towards the ending.
You're kidding.
I actually do. I really do. I'm not saying it's all going to be sunshine and rainbow. Everything's going to be great, but I actually think that there was going to be some sort of like redemption So I'd be curious to see him write it. I actually be very curious to see him write it now because I think that he's changed a good
Mhm.
amount. He became a father. I think that
Mhm.
that changed him drastically. Uh, so I would be curious. I mean, obviously, I want it, but Winds of Winter, yeah, it's not even close, honestly.
So this is the other reason why I wanted to get you on is I was trying to time this out right. It didn't quite happen. Jimmy, I am 75% of the way through the Unholy Consult.
It's a wild book.
So
A wild book.
I can't say I've really read anything quite like this. I'll say that.
That's it. I mean, so earlier on in the sequels, though, a little bit of Mines of Moria in there,
Hmm.
huh?
Hmm.
And a really messed up Mines of Moria. I mean, really terrifying
Yeah.
and confusing at some points. Uh, say one thing for Baker, he definitely went for it. Like
Yeah.
he went all out, did it the way he wanted to do it, and not everyone likes it. Most people don't, but I I'm trying to think. I think that's the last series I read where it was just like, yeah, I'm not reading anything else until this is done. Like,
Hmm.
no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this is what I'm reading. This is monumental, and it'll live in my brain to the end of time. So, ah, I'm kind of chasing that since.
Hmm.
It's hard.
I'm to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of surprised you haven't reread it because
Not about it.
I'm like about halfway through the Great Ordeal. I'm like, I bet if I went back to Darkness That Comes Before, I bet I would love that book so much, which I liked it the first time. But there's so much where it's like, what the heck is an Anasarimber? Like, trying
Yeah.
to figure this out. And so, like, going back to it and being like, oh, like, because I went very brief. I think I went back to one of Slowly Red's videos on it.
Yeah.
And it was like, wait, Kellis fought a non-man in like chapter one?
Chapter 1. So
What?
I have reread the prologue in the chat in chapter 1. I do that for every series I finish. I always go back and like read the opening again.
Oh,
Uh it's just
interesting.
something I've always liked to do. If
Okay.
it almost feels like I started the next journey and it's there when I want it. I don't know. I'm kind of weird about endings, but uh yeah, the opening is kind of weird. Like it's a kind of a bizarre. It doesn't feel like the rest of the series. Now, that not the prologue. The prologue's fantastic with the
Hmm.
boy and is there alone with what is it, a sorcerer or somebody or
And when I hit a spot in the Great Ordeal, that's when I said, I, I like so bad want to just like split, but I'm like, oh my gosh, am I like reading the prologue over again? Like, what is going on here? So
isn't that crazy?
yeah.
Dude, The Great Ordeal is my book of the year and nobody cared. Like that's the hardest part about like reading these series is like my book of the year was book 7 and a
Yeah.
it's like okay, dude. But The Great Ordeal is so I just think incredible. Like it's so trippy, it's horrifying. Uh, but I've thought about that book every day since I've read it. I think I think about a head on a pole behind me all the time. I mean, it's so
And
fascinating.
that takes a whole lot of meaning when you get a certain point of view in the Unholy Consult where I'm like, is this point of view what I think it is? Like what is even going on right
Dude, wait
now?
till you read the ending. It's so ridiculous. Like, and that's why I was like, I'm gonna hold off on saying it was actually a good ending because it is so subtle and so ridiculously tucked away in these books that you're gonna be like, what just happened? And then you're gonna go on, you're gonna watch Slowly Read, and you're gonna go, oh, that's what happened. That's genius. But then you're gonna think about like, how was I ever supposed to puzzle this out? Like,
Right,
there's no
right.
way I could puzzle this out.
Because I'm telling you,
So,
Jimmy, like Baker, everybody praises his writing. I can't follow his battle scenes. Like to save my life.
oh,
I'm like, oh,
interesting.
stuff's happening. But like I'm not a visual reader, like at all.
Yeah,
And
I'm not either.
so it's like I'm like, okay, so something magical happened, and a lot of people got eviscerated, and the meat. I got that.
The
Like,
meat. Arby's, we have the meat.
uh,
The I like
Shank burgers.
the kind of like Homer view he takes, that he like pulls up and kind of like describes things. I like him. I do. I won't pretend I know everything that's going on because I don't visualize anything either. I shouldn't say anything. There's like some stuff I can do,
Mhm.
but very, very, very rare for me. But I actually I like his battles.
Okay.
This is actually something that gets thrown around about Malazan as well. Ericsson's like very detailed.
Hmm.
Like there's a famous, I say famous, it's famous to the Malazan fans, and I can't remember who it is, but they explain the genius of the Deadhouse Gates fight scene by like putting things on like a board and being like that this person was like this group was here, the cavalry was here, and it all makes sense.
Hmm.
And I saw that and I was like, wow, I didn't understand any of that. Like kudos, that's sick, but means nothing. I don't know about you though, but a lot of times like action fighting and stuff
Hmm.
in stories, especially if there's a lot of it, I'm like, okay, I get like I don't I never skim read. I refuse to do it. But if I was ever gonna skim something, it'd be battle scenes. It's like,
It's one-on-one conflicts between characters. I like that I find a lot more interesting than the battle.
yeah. It's like Sanderson fight scenes. Like a lot of times it's just lost on me. I'm like, okay, someone's pushing off a coin or something. That's
Yeah.
cool. What happens after that? Let's get to the end. Who gets hurt? Okay. Moving on. I mean,
Right.
I like stories where people sit in chairs and talk though. So
Hmm. I mean, that's like for as dark as people say Baker is, like there's a lot of talking, man. There's a lot of just like we're
yeah.
gonna sit and we're gonna talk for a long time, and like maybe you'll track with some of it, but like that's what we're doing right now.
And I will say, I think that like the conversations, a lot of them in the sequels are tough. Like they're tough conversations, which in its it has tension. Anytime Kellis is talking to anyone, I'm just like, oh gosh. I heard Baker talk about writing Kellis, who's supposed to be like the smartest person ever, and he's just like, I basically just made up a bunch of stuff, and I would just like try to cut out what didn't make sense, and then stick with that. But he
Hmm.
said it was like really challenging
I
to,
bet.
to to write a character like that, and it's like, yeah, how do you write a character like that?
What about that bit where the kids are talking about trying to figure out Kellis, and then they're
Mhm.
like, and then one of us figured out that there is no such like it's like he's not a person.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like I know the feeling that like that revelation evoked in me, which is pretty horrific. Um,
Mhm.
but I know he's evil. I know he's a monster. I get all that. But like
Yeah.
Anasarimber Kellis is the most interesting fantasy character I've read about this year. I'm not gonna say ever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard. But like,
He's got to be in the conversation, right?
yeah,
Like, it's sometimes even hard to read him.
yeah,
Not just for comprehension, but like he's disgusting, he's awful,
yeah.
but fascinating.
He is like when people talk about like, oh, everybody missed the point with Dune, so Herbert writes Dune Messiah. Like you
Yeah.
don't miss the point at
No,
all
no,
with
I hope
Baker.
not.
It's
I
like,
hope not. My
yeah,
gosh.
it's like no, it's very well, and because there's this. Well, that's the other thing is sorry, I'm getting like ahead of myself now. Is like reading, especially later Aspect Emperor books. I'm like paranoid now of Kellis, where it's like, wait, wait. So there's this thing where it blocks the one guy so that Kellis can't like read him, can't figure out what's going on. But is he anyway, and is acting like he isn't, or is it really? And I'm I'm experiencing the paranoia that the characters are. I'm like, this is so can I say I'm having fun reading this?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Yeah, you can. People might judge you, but
yeah.
uh I love just and I always say this, but this is like the simple pitch is like the first trilogy is about doubt and the
Mm,
sequels are about belief. And I think belief is far more interesting
poor
because
Boreas.
yeah, belief can make you do crazy things
Yeah.
and follow crazy people. uh, I don't know. What is it? There's like 200 cults active every day in the United States or something like that. And obviously they're not going to the level of of Kellos, but there's a lot of people following crazy people out there.
Yeah.
And this one just happens to be a large body of people that belong, to a city state,
Hmm.
Providence. I don't know what the hell it is. Uh, but yeah, Kellos, fascinating character, and it's hard to I struggle to think about anyone I could read that would put me on edge as much
Mm.
as him. Maybe like I think of Disgrace's main character by J.M. Coetzee. That was pretty. Yeah, that was horrific. but in a much more like tame way. And then of course Severian from Book of the New Sun, but I think Severian is like less frightening and more frustrating.
And I think Severian also, man, I want you to read Earth of the New Sun so bad.
I'm going to. I
So
am.
bad.
I'm going to read all of them.
Severian is still Severian in Earth and is still idiotic and frustrating. But a few things get recontextualized where you realize there's a few points where I'm like, maybe he's a bit aware of the type of person that he is and is trying to do something about it. Like, I'm not gonna say he's a good person, by the end, but Earth of the New Sun, on my first read, I did not like it, like almost at all. And when I reread it, I was like, oh, this is the best. I love this so much. So
how do you feel about the people who are kind of against it because it was never originally intended to be published? Because like the publisher requested it.
Yeah. So I get it, and people can, if people don't like it, because I know some people don't like that. I know some people feel like it removes some of the, like it's explaining everything, but it so doesn't. Like it's still very like, Gene Wolfe. My understanding is that, because like at the end of Citadel with the Autarch, like you have no clue what the answers are going to be. Like, how is all this going to get resolved? It's like, okay. And it's like, well, it was all there in the play. And it's like, okay. But most normal readers have a very hard time understanding what the play is supposed to mean, let alone how it ties into the overall story.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I love Book of the New Sun. I don't like the plays.
Yeah.
And I know that makes me stupid. Like people are always like, yeah, you just don't. That's fine.
I'm a big Book of the New Sun fan. There's some parts of the play that I find interesting, but I don't understand it like almost at all. So
it almost always starts out with me being like, I'm going to figure this thing out. And then by like page 3 of it, I'm like, oh, I'm done. Yeah. Can we please get back to Severian thinking about women? The good
stuff. So I was just all that to say, my understanding is that Wolfe was basically, his publisher asked him to put in like a couple paragraphs at the end of Citadel being like, and here's what Severian did and how it was all like, taken care of. And he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And so sort of the compromise that they wrote was they're like, all right, how about we contract you write us another New Sun book and also give us some of the answers. And so it was sort of like, okay, like I'll write another one, but it'll be on my terms. And so that's why it is sort of like, yes, this is book 5, but it is also sort of an epilogue, so
man, I would love. I think I was supposed to read Earth of the New Sun in December with Beltube, Joanna, and Philip, I want to say. But I don't know if we're still doing that. But also, dude, it's been over a year since I read Book of the New Sun. And as you can imagine, I can't remember everything that's in there. So I guess I'm going to watch Moyd's 10-hour video.
That's right.
Explaining it. I think it has Earth of the New Sun in it, though. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
I could probably just listen to like Alzabo. Is it Alzabo?
Alzabo Soup. Yeah.
Yeah. Alzabo Soup's like wrap ups. They wrap up each book with a podcast. That'd probably be pretty smart.
Yeah.
Man, that book is crazy though. It was so much fun to read. I love Sword of the Lictor. That's my favorite of them.
Yeah. So here's a question that I have for you, because you're fans of both. I learned 2 things early on in my time on YouTube. One was be careful talking about Gene Wolfe because a lot of people call you stupid, which I learned. And 2 was don't talk about Gene Wolfe on Reddit, because there's a lot of folks. There's a lot of things that I like about the Gene Wolfe subreddit, but I made a video and I actually really like it. There's not a lot of my videos that I'm like, I like this one, but this one I do, which is I read the Broken Empire books by Mark Lawrence, which I know you're not super hot on, but I thought as I was reading it, I got like deja vu for New Sun, like at multiple times while reading it. I was like, okay, what are these 2 series doing that are similar? And what are they doing that's like distinctly different? So I did a video like comparing and contrasting them. And one of the funniest comments that I got was, and I think it was a Redditor, I'm trying to remember, was like, oh, like, if you think Mark Lawrence is even comparable to Gene Wolfe, you're stupid. What you really need to read is R. Scott Baker. Like, that's the real like fantasy equivalent. And I've gotten comments like this a couple of times being like, dude, if you're such a Wolfe fan, go read R. Scott Baker. And I can barely imagine an author with more of a different worldview from Gene Wolfe than R. Scott Baker. So I guess
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
wondering, is it just because, like, well, like
the women stuff.
assault and cannibalism in both? So, like,
Yeah, and honestly, you know, each series gets its criticism for its depiction of women, specifically Baker's depiction of women in the trilogy. To be
yes.
clear, the sequels I actually think have some pretty amazing female characters with cool arcs, um, which is concerning though, right? If someone's like, "That's what I'm after," you know what I mean? Like, "Ugh, I don't love that." Yeah, I guess there's cannibalism, but I don't take away the same things at all. I mean, not to mention the fact that it's not written from the first person perspective. And I
Right.
think that that is like, obviously it's a choice, but I think it's like integral to the DNA of like what Severian is telling. Like it's just so, I mean, it's so good at
Mhm.
being a first person narration. Um, I guess like Baker is asking like a lot of big questions. There's a lot of like metaphors in there as
Mhm.
well with the Crusades. You know, I know Gene Wolfe said like the New Testament was a big inspiration for Book of the New Sun. I fail to. I mean, outside of like intricacies and like I would say very good prose. I
Mhm.
don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is complex. I mean, I'll say that it is complex. I don't necessarily think it's shocking that someone would like both,
Mhm.
but an equivalency. And also, why would you be dumb for comparing another first person, like troubling character? Like, it's obviously something that should be compared, right? And also, it
I
doesn't even mean that it doesn't mean that you love Mark Lawrence, right?
Mhm.
It's just something that you like, you can just do it almost academically. Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a value statement.
I should have put on my tweed jacket. That was it.
You needed a
So,
pipe and a tweed jacket and a Pringles can. Yeah,
well, you've probably seen this, but I got it.
it's awesome.
Do you know what's funny? Who was it? Was a family member was over here and they saw it on my shelf and they grabbed it because they wanted some Pringles. I'm like, no, this is just filled with rocks. I need to buy my books because
The worst Pringles ever.
that's right, because of the meme.
That's awesome, dude.
So I don't know, and I guess I'm a lot more open. Excuse me. I'm a lot more free and open recommending New Sun than I am with Baker. Um,
Oh, yeah.
for a plethora of reasons. One, it's shorter, and so that's
Yeah.
helpful. Two is like if you don't like if you don't like Book of the New Sun, you will probably figure out without reaching some of the really like dark stuff where the series goes. Whereas with Baker, like it's right out of the gate. It's like this is what you're
Right.
in for, you know.
Yeah. And it gets
Um,
worse as it goes
yeah.
on. And, you know, even some of the first stuff that you see is pretty graphic. Honestly, though, in the prologue, I mean, there's obviously some stuff that is awful, but he actually does it really subtly. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't describe it in disgusting detail or anything. It's almost more ominous.
I think because everybody said like, "Oh, Aspect Emperor is so much darker." I thought a lot of the dark stuff that happened was way more subtly done than Prince of Nothing. Like to the point that I was
Yeah.
like, "This isn't bugging me as much as some of the stuff in Prince of Nothing did," just because it's a little bit less in your face about
Y-
it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a couple different reasons for that. I think one of the things is that he tried and failed to almost like to a satirical level male gaze. Um, like his plan is that he was trying to do so much male gaze that he wanted the people who enjoy male gaze to question themselves.
Mhm.
He failed, I
Mhm.
think, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people reading books like, "Yeah, it's sick, dude." You know, and like, you know what I mean? Like, like he had too much faith, I think,
Mhm.
in some of these people. Uh, I don't think he went into the sequels with that intention at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
I think he actually took feedback from the first trilogy and applied it in the sequels as
Mhm.
well. The problem is that the reality of the situations in the sequels, when you really start thinking about how much can you do until you're not human anymore?
Mhm.
When do you become something else?
Mhm.
Uh, that's might seem like a kind of a ridiculous question until you read those books
Yeah.
and you're like, I don't know what this marching group of people is anymore.
Right. Right.
Um, the meat be praised. The
Yeah.
meat be praised.
when this was kind of one of the first epiphanies that I had with Baker. I think this was halfway through Darkness That Comes Before. Is I was like, oh, all of this like male gaze, like over sexualized icky stuff, like it's all coming from like demons.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
oh, like you want, like, here's what you want to identify with. Like this is like exclusively coming from which, by the way, like, and I know I haven't finished the last book, but like the consult, and maybe it's because of how underplayed a lot of it is, might be the most terrifying like fantasy bad guy thing I've ever read about.
The consult is pretty wicked.
Yeah.
Just the world state is so
Yeah.
cool. Well, maybe not cool, fascinating.
Yeah.
You're right. All that stuff comes from a place of evil, and none of those characters are meant to be like, I want to grow up and be like a commune. Like, nobody says that.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
no one says that.
Yeah.
Oh, Esmond is such a good character, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, I know it's a bit trite to have the, the prostitute in the fantasy novel. I get it. But
That's not on accident though. Like he's doing some
playing
stuff with it.
Yes, and I think Esmondette's a fantastic character, especially in the sequels when she's at the helm of this thing that she did not sign up for.
Do you know one of my favorite characters whole series is
Kelmomus?
Kelmomus.
Yes.
Yes.
Tickle me Kelmo.
She is so
wicked.
So funny. Well, and it takes about like halfway through Aspect Emperor to like what you said, where it's like, oh, like this isn't a human. Like what we're reading about, like this Kelmomus is not what he seems.
What is the brother's name that's locked in the room? Aratus or something like that?
Enrolitus.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Those conversations are crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, those books are awesome.
They're so like those conversations, things like that. Basically everything with the Dunyain is so chilling. Just chilling.
What does he say to Esmond? It's like, what do you see when you see me, or something? It's just like you're like, is that profound or really dumb? Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm in. Like, yeah, Kelmomus is like probably the peak of the sequels to me. Like that is the best thing about the sequels. Sore Wheel's also great.
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh, dude, I love
this is the one reason why The Great Ordeal wasn't my favorite book of all of them. Is I didn't love the stuff with the non-men. I was like, I don't know what this is. I'm confused. Whatever. But other than that, it's like, but you know what's weird, Jimmy? Is I got about halfway through White Luck Warrior, and I had this thought that I would have never admitted to in a million years, which is, do you remember when everyone was happy in the Warrior Prophet? The good old days of the Warrior Prophet when everyone was happy, the gang was together.
Yeah, honestly, that was probably the peak of happiness for everybody, which is really sad.
Yeah.
The Warrior Prophet's so good. I think the book that I'm most excited to reread out of R. Scott Baker's, though, is The Thousandfold Thought, because so much of it went over my head the first time I read it, and I think I would have a much better chance of kind of grasping some of the stuff, especially with Naor, who's a great character, too. Talk about inspection of, like, toxic masculinity. There's the guy.
End of The Great Ordeal, man. Boom. Just I cheered when that last little bit of The Great Ordeal happened. I was like, what a Baker, what a dude.
And that's the thing, like, yes, they're very philosophical. Yes, they are like steeped with complex language, but there's also some fist pumping moments. Like there's just cool fantasy shit in there. Like it's like the entire Mines of Moria stuff. I call it Mines of Moria, but
yeah.
But it's cool fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
He definitely was going for something big. And I think he delivered mostly on it, especially in the sequels. I think the sequels are just unhinged. I love them. They're so interesting.
And like, here's my thing. Like, I've never had a series that I'm quite this conflicted on, because it's like, on the one hand, like the guy's a master. So much of this is cool. So much of this is really interesting, is making me think a lot. At the same time, a lot of the books are pretty horrific.
Yeah.
I said before, I'm not much of a pessimist usually. So just on an ideological level, I tend to probably disagree with Baker on some of those things. And I actually think that Baker, the harsh way of saying it is like, at least for the first trilogy, is a little dishonest. And not by like intentionally, but just by omitting anything that could be remotely seen as like positive or good. And I don't, and I'm exaggerating there, but like the example that I'll use is like, think of every single mom that's portrayed in Prince of Nothing. It's like every single mom is absolutely horrific. It's like,
Yeah, some of the worst stuff's with the moms.
if you're wanting like if you're painting this as like an individual character study of like a Clockwork Orange, like of one person, like that's one thing. But when you're painting a picture of like this is what the world is like, I don't know. I think I had a pretty good mom. I know lots of people with good moms. I know lots of people with awful moms. And so some of it I think runs a little one note, which for the sake of the experiment is not necessarily a flaw.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to recommend it or talk about it necessarily where it's like, oh wow, yay, I love and I agree, you know, like.
Yeah, if someone says they were like a big fan of the Crusades, I'm like, yeah, you'll love this. I don't recommend it to anyone usually. So that's my answer to that. I think context of the fantasy genre when this came out is probably also a pretty important piece of that, because right now I think the general feeling is like, First Law, like all these like grimdark series, like we're over that now. We're in cozy fantasy vibes now, which there's plenty of reasons for that. But at the time, that was not the case. I mean, R. Scott Baker was publishing right alongside George R. Martin. They did a tour. I think it was in Uganda or something.
I've seen clips of that. Yeah. It's
Dude,
bizarre.
it's so wild. Like Baker's up there, like, yeah, we're changing the game, man. He's not talking like that, but it's like you can tell, like, there's like something in the air. Like it was a crazy event, but yeah, like I think him and George were definitely doing something different at the time. I'm not saying there weren't anti-heroes. I'm not saying like Black Company already existed, Elric, whatever. But I do think that at that time there might have been motivation to show what if everything was just bad. And that might be boring to some. That's fine. But there's also a lot of fantasy that was written in almost infantile way, where everything gets resolved, everything's pretty, everything's great.
And this is why I keep going back to grimdark, is even though I'm not a nihilist, I tend not to be a pessimist. It's like I appreciate people not saying like, oh well, like my bunny died but Jesus brought it back. Like
yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of that, maybe not that literally, but there's a lot of that type of trait. And it's like, man, like I've had a pretty, as far as the world sees it, like I've had a pretty privileged life. And even I've had things that are like, this sucks. They're suffering. I've had people really close to me die. And it's like, man, there's no easy fix for that. And as far as grimdark goes, I read a lot that's like, okay. And I've read some that I enjoy. And Baker's the most interesting stuff that I've read.
Yeah, I think it kind of stands alone. When like I would be comfortable calling his work nihilistic, by the way. Like that is nihilistic to me. That's a true representation of nihilism in a fantasy setting. Yeah, you know, one of the interesting thing is in just talking to people who enjoy his stuff, and this actually happened to me when I read Berserk as well. There are a lot of people that are out there that are going through hell. Like they are having the worst time imaginable, and there is no reprieve and no end in sight. And they actually find like a catharsis or solace in stories like this because they almost feel seen. And you know, that's not up to me to understand, but I think it's valid. And I'm glad those things exist for those people to find something in it. Berserk has a lot of depictions of SA and just like really brutal stuff. But I had people saying, you know, I was a victim of this, and this actually helped me. And I truthfully, like, I don't actually understand it. but I don't think they're like, I think they're telling the truth, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned for them to have something.
Yeah.
So like, so yeah, and that's what I think like with R. Scott Baker, I found that a lot of the people who indulge in his work seem to be people who are going through some or have been through something, and maybe there's just some sort of connection there.
Yeah.
So I can understand it being one note or somebody saying like, "What's the point of all this?" But I've never let the point ever ruin something for me
Hmm.
because I don't think there's any point to any of this. That's my belief. I
Yeah.
really don't. Now the difference. Now we're getting into like my personal philosophy, but like that doesn't mean I don't see the point in anything. I'm gonna go jump off my house.
Mhm.
Well, in some ways, there not being a point means there's no real pressure, and then I can
Mm.
just enjoy these moments because I have chemicals in my brain that reward me with endorphin. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I still am a human being that gets happy at times, but ultimately, you know, I don't know if I see a point
Hmm.
in all this. That's a nice cheery statement to make online.
And on that note, no, but I hear that, and I actually had a friend who who was one of the guys who got me to read Second Apocalypse, and I put out a video on Prince of Nothing, just trying to explain my beliefs, and so that's one of the hardest videos I've made. It took me like 4 times to record it, and I'm still not happy with it. But I've left it up for now. Um, and I talked a little bit about some of the one note aspects of the Prince of Nothing books, and just some of
Mhm.
the like, okay, is this really a full accurate picture of the world and all of that? And his response was he's basically what you said there, which is like, well, like I've gone through a lot of suffering, and I actually see this as being like refusing to lie to me about the way the world is
Mm,
and the things that people go through, and like there's no magic amulet that you can get that heals trauma. There's
man.
no like, spell that you can cast that will get the people back that you've lost. And
Yeah.
what you said, feeling seen by that.
Yeah, being seen, yeah, that's an important piece to it, and, you know, if we're talking about, like, literature and just, like, fiction, like, there's so many, like, classics or, you know, very revered works that are frankly, you know, haunting and
Hmm.
and abhorrent in many ways, like Disgrace by Joan Coetzee, which he wrote, and then shortly after he won the Nobel Prize in
Hmm.
Literature. So usually that's kind of the book. They get it for their lifetime works, but like that's usually the one. And Disgrace is horrendous. I mean,
Hmm.
it's very uncomfortable, and it does not end in a fashion that inspires a lot of hope, at least in my opinion.
Hmm.
Uh, so if like contemporary fiction can have that, why can't fantasy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why limit what it can be? And I see it, and not to call it the Tolkien people. I love Tolkien. And back when I was on Twitter, I'm not anymore, but back when I was on there, I would always see these Tolkien accounts, these Tolkien creators just like talk about one, they'd always just slam George anytime there's a Winds of Winter headline. But two, they would always talk about like what fantasy is, like with such like just like blunt terms. And I always just want to go prove it.
Hmm.
You can't prove that. Like it could be whatever we want, and that's the beauty of art. So to me, I'm glad those things exist, whether I like them or not. Like I'm not a big fan of the Prince of Thorns, but I know that there's people who read it and really enjoy it and get something out of it. And I'm always just happy that people have something that they can read that will impact them in one way or another.
And what's so funny is, for as much as Baker has a different worldview than Tolkien, there's a couple of points where he makes almost the exact argument or comes to a similar conclusion to Tolkien. And I'm just sitting, I'm like, that is so bizarre that we have like almost like ultimate light and ultimate darkness on the one side, and they kind of like horseshoe and like
It's
reach the
all
same
a circle,
spot.
bro.
Yeah.
It's all a circle. I say this all the time. Opposite ends of the spectrum end up crossing. It always
Hmm.
happens. And also, Baker's a huge Tolkien fan.
Hmm. I
Matt, I
mean,
mean, it's obvious,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
He loved Dune and he loved Lord of the Rings, and it is all over those books. Um, I you know, I know that like the general Lord of the Rings fan might not like it. But if someone were saying like, I need like world building on a crazy scale, I mean, Baker's got to be up there.
Some of the best. Some of the best I've
It's,
ever read.
it's
It's
so
like
crazy. I wonder if you would enjoy Richard K. Morgan's series, Fit for Heroes or
and Fit
whatever
for
it is.
Heroes.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
thought of
I
it.
read the first two, and I stopped because I didn't like his writing.
Hmm.
It's a very like terse, sharp type of writing,
Mm-hmm.
and I found it to be kind of grating in some ways. I would like to revisit them
Hmm.
because it does remind me a bit of Baker, and the world building is some of my favorite, if not my favorite premise.
Let's
Uh,
just say there's some sci-fi adjacent things in Baker that is some of the most nuts that once again, the ending of the Great Ordeal blew my mind. I'm like,
so good, dude.
what the heck did I just read here? So, and I
And the
think
Heron spear and everything. Oh,
because I think
dude.
Richard K. Morgan does some sci-fi adjacent things in his right.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And the best way of describing is that aliens have made first contact, but they left.
Hmm. Oh, how we wish they did in the in
Yeah,
Erwa.
yeah, for real though. But I loved Richard K. Morgan's world building. I thought it was
Hmm.
so, and it's so much so that I'm actually going to reread and finish the trilogy. I think.
Hmm.
Um, I also read an interview with him. He seems like a complete jerk off, but that's fine. That's whatever.
Uh, well, on that note, I'll land the plane here because I have a couple of things I want to ask you about when we're off air. But Jimmy, thanks for letting me take up like over an hour and a half. I mean, we talked beforehand, so it'll be like 2 hours of your time. Man, I've this really blessed me today, so thank you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, and anytime. This is wonderful. And we only covered a small amount of topics. I'm sure we could talk about plenty of other things. So anytime you want to chat, I'm down.
Sounds good. Well, everyone, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Keep turning the page.
That's right.